All right, welcome back, everyone. We're preparing for our next session, which is Basic Needs After HEERF, Lessons Learned and Lasting Change. That session will take us to the campus of Maryland's oldest HBCU, Bowie State University. But first, I would like to welcome another special person, and that's Robin McKinney, who is the co-founder and CEO of the Cash Campaign of Maryland. As many of you know, McPhew operates under the fiscal sponsorship of the Cash Campaign of Maryland, but we have a relationship that stems all the way back to 2011 during my time at the University of Maryland, Baltimore, working very closely with the School of Social Work. So as we're shifting the conversation to basic needs, I wanted to give Robin an opportunity to tell us about a creative program that has been designed to help young Baltimoreans meet their basic needs through a guaranteed income pilot. So Robin, thank you so much for being here and for everything.
Absolutely. Good morning. I'm Robin McKinney. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Cash Campaign. Cash stands for Creating Assets, Savings, and Hope, and we promote economic advancement for low to moderate income individuals and families in Baltimore City and across the state. We are so proud to be the fiscal sponsor and to see all the incredible work, Tisa, that you've built. It's just awesome. And we stand next to you, with you, holding you up, whatever you need. We're here for you. So thank you for all of your hard work. So in addition to the 50 hats that I've learned that financial aid counselors wear, and as a proud social worker, I do want to add one more, which is actually policy advocacy, because so many of the issues that are in the way of students being successful in their academic life has to deal with the root causes that they are dealing with in their life, whether it's systemic racism, whether it's lack of opportunity, whether it's trauma in their household, all of these sorts of things. And there are really exciting solutions also. And so I really encourage you to add that to your many hats. Get involved with groups like ours and other folks who are working on some of these root issues. One exciting thing for us is always around tax credits, and there's a lot of work around the earned income tax credit. So if you have a working student population, learn more about that, shout us out. We are happy to give you more information on that. But today I wanted to quickly talk about guaranteed income. And this is an idea that while is sort of newer in policy conversations, it's actually an idea that's been around for a very long time. For example, Alaska, every single person in Alaska gets $200 a month just for being an Alaskan. And it's funded by oil reserves. And it's a way to create shared opportunity for this natural resource that is in their community. And we've seen sort of similar things like that on Native American reservations, right, with casino revenue, that there's a shared across the tribe. And so this idea of that, people get some set of basic income, some amount that just raises the floor. If we think about all of the pressures that have happened on workers, whether it's inflation, whether it's, cost to get a credential, any of these things, the wages are just not keeping up with cost of living. And so how can we provide a floor that helps everyone to have more equitable access to their basic needs? In Baltimore City, we are one of 75 pilots right now that are happening across the city through the Mayors for a Guaranteed Income. That's across the country, I'm sorry. And Mayor Brandon Scott signed on to this in May of 2021. What year is it? It's already been a year somehow. And we have launched a pilot, and this is, we are, as of today, 195 people onboarded out of 200. So we are very close. Our first payments are going to be going out August 15th. And we have 200 18 to 24-year-old young parents who are receiving $1,000 a month of unrestricted funds for 2 years. They can use those funds for anything that they see fit. We are tracking that information. There's a big research study that's part of this, both a quantitative and a qualitative study that shows, I think what we know at the end is that people know what they need. They know how to best target their resources. And so we're really excited to see the research that comes out of this. There's also a storytelling cohort, just I think for people to share information about what life is like right now and all the things that we're trying to balance. I will say, just from the onboarding process, we have learned that lots of the young parents are students, so they're trying to go to school. And we have folks on the top end that some of our 24-year-olds have 5 kids already, and are trying to balance a lot of things, as well as 18-year-olds that are just trying to figure out where to get started in their career. So really exciting opportunity. And I just commend all of you for all of the hard work. I spent a lot of time in undergrad in the financial aid office, and trying to make things go. So thank you for all that you do as well, and great job. Thanks so much, Tisa.
Thank you so much, Robin, for telling us about the pilot, but also just reminding us that there are, again, students who are on a path that's not so traditional when it comes to higher education. So there's some people that are students who are parenting. There are students who might not be parents, but are supporting other family members while they're pursuing higher education. So programs like this hopefully will give us some huge insights into the difference that having that solid, dependable income can make on their journey. So thank you, Robin, for the information about the pilot, but also for your support and the support of the Cash Campaign of Maryland. It's been absolutely invaluable. All right. Okay, so at this time, we're gonna shift to our next session, Basic Needs After HEERF, Lessons Learned and Lasting Change. So I would like to welcome our guests from Bowie State University, starting with Dr. Brandon Vinson, who's the Associate Vice President, also Tracee Rhodes, Assistant Director, and Nneka Chukwudozie. Thank you all so much for joining me from BSU. How are you all doing today?
We're doing well, thank you.
Absolutely, doing quite well. Thank you.
Well,
great, good to see you all. I want to begin the day's discussion with just sharing some stats with everyone from a national survey that was conducted by the Hope Center for College, Community, and Justice based at Temple University. And the survey was Real College 2021, Basic Needs Insecurity During the Ongoing Pandemic. And just to be clear, when we talk about basic needs, we're referring to food and housing insecurity, as well as homelessness. So this survey was of nearly 195,000 students. We had 3 findings. The first one was that nearly 3 in 5 students experienced some form of basic needs insecurity. 34% of them applied for emergency aid. However, 52% did not apply because they did not know how. The last piece of this is that the Black-white gap in basic needs security was 16 percentage points. The report went on to make 2 recommendations. The first one is to engage community organizations and the private sector in proactive rather than reactive support, and to develop and expand an emergency aid program. So during today's conversation, I would like for everyone to keep those figures in mind, but we're going to zoom in on Bowie State University to talk to them about the actions that they have taken on both of those fronts. So I'd like to start with exploring the basic needs and talking about how BSU has been proactive in that space. Dr. Vinson, perhaps the most visible sign of increased availability of housing is the big building that now sits at the entrance of Bowie State University. So could you tell us about the new ELLC?
Certainly, we were very excited to unveil the new ELLC, which stands for Entrepreneurship Living Learning Community. It is the bright and shiny building that you see when you drive down 197. And we're very excited that it not only offers a living space for our students, but also an entrepreneurship think tank or incubator space for thoughts and also collaboration, not only with businesses, but also with instructors, but also with fellow students. We're very excited about that property. It adds a new culture to the campus community, while also providing over 550 beds for our student population. So it was a huge win for us on the campus when we first allowed students to move in last fall. And at this point, I'm very happy to share that it's so popular among other properties we have on campus. It is completely full for the fall semester. So it has reached the student population, and that excitement and that fervor is there.
Wow, and I've got to say, I love it. That's where I go to co-work as a part of the business incubator on campus, and it's really nice to be able to have that space to handle business, but also cross the hall and see and interact with students. So outside of housing, I want to shift gears a little bit to food, because that's one thing that sometimes we don't know that a student is hungry. That's not something that students will share. And rather than be reactive, I want to shift to how Bowie State has been proactive in that space and mention to you all that I was actually just Googling Bowie State as I normally do to keep up with what's going on, and found that there was a partnership between the campus food pantry, a local grocer, and Zion Church, which happens to be my church. So can you tell us a bit about the importance of partnering with outside organizations to address basic needs?
Certainly. So we all know one of the core foundations that sets institutions apart is not necessarily fully based off how they instruct students, but also how they provide wraparound services and provide the foundation of human needs that individuals will require during their time in higher education. And that is something that BSU has always had a strong commitment towards. And that goes beyond just, like I said, the classroom. So it goes into what happens after you finish your courses for the day. And one of the big challenges that students were facing was the lack of food, of resources. So it was the idea of how can we get ahead of this? So we have a food pantry that is available to our students on campus. You come in, you get a basket, you can get a card or whatever have you. You pick out food that you may need, no cost to the student. But then also it served as an opportunity to partner with our community as well, such as you stated before, your church, and we partner with other businesses and things of that nature and grocery stores for the idea of it takes a village. And the idea behind that is we have so many invested partners in the community that are dedicated to our students, and they just want an opportunity to be able to share their gifts. This is one of those opportunities. Just a story that I came across a few weeks ago. I had the story of a coach coming to me, one of our coaches on the team, saying that they had a few players who were going through the day having maybe just about one meal. And we're talking about this is the time for practices, and we all know about the blazing heat that we've experienced, things of that nature. Like that, we are not going to have our students out there experiencing these type of restrictions when it comes to meals, when we have the ability to assist them. So the idea was meeting with the coaches and having an understanding of what can we do to not only share the message of what we have on campus, but also partner with you all to where everyone knows about some of these opportunities. So I said to the coach, bring your team, the entire team, to the pantry. Let them have a ball and let them know that this is not a one-stop or one-time engagement. They can come back. They have options. There's nothing wrong with coming to the food pantry, and know that these resources will be replenished because we have such dynamic partnerships in the community.
Wow. Thank you so much for adding that piece, that nothing is wrong with having to come to the food pantry, because I think when it comes to some basic needs, there's a level of shame there, or guilt sometimes, where people feel as if perhaps it's some type of personal failure, that they don't have everything that they need in order to succeed. And just thinking about athletes going hungry with all these practices in the heat, that's definitely something we shouldn't take something like a meal for granted. So I'm just really happy to hear about that partnership. And also because I have a cousin who's on the football team, that makes me feel better about his experience. I want to shift gears a little bit to talk about financial literacy and the work of Ms. Nneka Chukwudozie. Nneka has been just like a firecracker. The first time I met Nneka, it was just like, hey, slow down. We got a lot of ideas. You know, we can do a lot of this, but you know, it's got to be one thing at a time. But that passion in her is just so on fire and ready to serve students. So I wanted you all to talk about how prolific your financial literacy programming has been, especially throughout the pandemic. And I want to be clear that I'm not saying that financial literacy is going to solve food or housing insecurity, because this is a discussion about basic needs. But I do want to acknowledge that the knowledge that's included in many of these financial education programs can help students learn about resources, equip them to meet challenges, and also make more informed decisions that go beyond their time on campus. So Ms. Nneka, please tell us about your role as Financial Literacy Coordinator at BSU and how you all have managed to pull off so much programming in such unforeseen and unusual circumstances.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. I think one of the biggest things for us was I came into Bowie State in the middle of the pandemic. So, and I left the financial institution, so really working at a bank to come into Bowie State. One thing I had to find out is that programming is great, but customizable program, those are the best solutions. So I initially started with a lot of virtual events, trying to meet the students at where they were. I was doing SAP workshops. I was doing just basic calls and conversations with parents and families. We did programs such as game nights, anything that could bring them to just listen, to learn that though we're going through a pandemic, though money might be a bit hard to reach right now, it is the norm of what happens in life. And it's not something that should take over your life. It's something that you should learn from. So we really focus heavily on really doing a lot of programming to meet them where they were. And one thing that was really helpful to us during the pandemic is at the end of every program, we gave the students opportunities to just share their feedback, what they thought about the program. And then we sent out surveys to find out what topics did we do great on, or what topics did they really feel like we needed to probably go to focus more on or do several workshops on, because they felt like a one workshop wasn't sufficient. And for me, throughout the pandemic, I started to realize a common thread of communication is some of our returning students who have been on campus never really thought about money. But now they don't have the access of coming on campus. They're forced to read the email from financial aid. They're forced to understand what is a sub and a non-sub loan. They're forced to educate their parents on plus loan, because right now it's not a phone call to tell their parents, go do the plus loan. They are right there with their parents who sometimes have never done a plus loan before. So that made me realize that it was no longer financial literacy for the student, it was financial literacy for the community. So we decided to go ahead to do some programming also with our high schools locally, but also we went ahead to partner with Dr. Tracee over here because that was key for us. There are aspects of financial aid that you need an expert. You need someone who really understands that aspect, because no one is a master of all angles of financial education. I do well with certain topics and other people excel in other topics. So our first financial literacy week that we had in 2020 was a success, because for the first time, we're able to archive the workshops and we're able to send out the link to specific workshop to specific classifications. So we're able to give our graduates financial literacy education on life after school and student loan repayment, because we felt strongly that even if you didn't attend the workshop, if we send you an email that tells you, hey, cash flow for my freshman and my sophomore, they all listen to the video. And they filled out the surveys and were able to collect their response from the survey. I remember one comment on the survey that I really go back to that particular survey and I re-energized myself. The student was like, what I learned, I used it today. She was like, and that was a short enough compliment to let us know that this was so relevant. I had to go use it today. And this is a student that was a transfer student coming into Bowie, because with the survey, I'm able to reach out to them directly to really understand how was the message effective enough to get you to take action today. As we know, money management isn't an easy skill for everyone to learn. So the student was able to share that it was just the way the information was finally simple. We did fun things like when we got back on campus, I was doing in-person workshops and I refused to coordinate workshops just by the Office of Financial Aid, but I decided to do more collaboration with the Student Government Association and partner with them and showing up at their event hosted by them. I realized the feedback was much better. Miss Rhodes will be one of my witnesses that I will come back from workshops and tell her some stories. She's like, really? They thought by doing a FAFSA will pull their credit, and she would laugh. I was like, these are the conversations happening all over campus. And that's something that really helped me. And sometimes in the middle of a workshop, you get to meet that student who has heard this, but now is hearing it differently. So they might need you to spend an extra 30 minutes to sit down and have a real conversation with them. And these are some of the things that I encourage everyone doing financial education. Create a room whereby people can really have real conversations. And those who have those real conversations, we were successful enough to transition them as advocates of financial literacy on campus. So we have some RAs that partner with us. We have some student government association that check up on us every semester. Oh, Ms. Nneka, what's going on for financial literacy? How can I help? We have some people who are there for registration. I try to make the students the face and then just act as a listening ear for them and to be able to transport the feedback to leadership. Like my VPs, they're always very great at receiving these feedback because the way we do things is by transforming our students' life through what they are telling us.
So Nneka, that's a perfect place to pause. And I want to just thank you because you showed everyone exactly what I was talking about when I said Nneka just has this passion and it is overflowing with all of these ideas. You mentioned residence life, registration, financial aid, student government association. You also gave us some very concrete tips about archiving workshops, using that content to provide targeted outreach, also repurposing the same content for multiple groups of students, hosting events with partners. Those are the types of things that many people who enter this financial education space are not aware of when they actually start to do the work. So we could put together something else just to talk about each of those and how that collaboration has moved financial wellness forward on the campus of Bowie State University. In addition to financial literacy, though, I want to talk about the availability of funding, and scholarships play such an integral role in making sure that students are ready on day one. They have their bills paid and they can go to class without having to worry about financial obligations. So I'm really happy that we have Tracee Rhodes here. And building off of our first session, I want to say that I met Tracee at the Neophyte Experience hosted by Tri-State in Ocean City. So it's great to see that Tracee is still in the financial aid profession and that Tracee is still at the Bowie State University. So welcome, Ms. Rhodes.
Thank you so much and good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Can you tell us about your role in scholarships, how that role has you interacting with students and any changes that have been made to make the process of obtaining that funding for scholarships and or emergency aid easier since we've been in this COVID-19 pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. So I want to, number one, start with leadership. Leadership has to be on board. So for us, I would say probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we got the opportunity really to have leadership that understood financial aid, that understands the regulations that go into that, but also able to give us the understanding from their vantage point, not that we don't know it, but just to reinforce that this has to be everything we do has to be student driven. And that was when Dr. Clemens joined our team at Bowie State, and then when Dr. Vinson joined us as well. They both brought a wealth of knowledge specifically in financial aid, which you don't get a lot of times from your VP or your AVP. They may know a little bit, but these were leaders that have been entrenched in those processes. And so they know how to support us in those goals that we have. So that has been key. For us, as Nneka alluded to, when we went into the pandemic, we kind of used that as an opportunity to revamp a lot of the things that we were doing and how we were reaching out to our students and also partnering with our departments. So initially I was the scholarship coordinator and I took my background that I had learned, of course, in financial aid and Neophyte and all of this great training that I received, and really saw the need of working collaboratively with our departments. They do not understand financial aid, not because they don't want to, but it is complex, right? And we are the subject matter experts of that. They understand what their mission is in their departments. They understand what their mission is in their organizations, but really being able to mesh that financial aid piece and understanding all of the other aspects that go into that, such as verification and compliance and things like that, to make a student eligible for aid. So in some cases in that role, I wasn't just administering funds. I was kind of, as Nneka would say, an ambassador from our office to the different departments and then also different organizations as well. And just starting with that momentum, coupling that with the leadership that we had and their ideas that they've been able to bring to the table, we've been able to look at creative ways of getting opportunities to our students. Being able to hold ourselves accountable to say, hey, we have an influx of funds coming in. Like Dr. Vinson alluded to, we have partners that are willing to partner, but if that money is not reaching the student, then what are we doing? And if we're not able to communicate what we're doing so that other students and other partners are able to come to the fold and partner with us in where we're trying to go, what good is it? So we're always thinking of ways that we can improve upon how are we communicating to students? How are we connecting with our students? Our website, we know that we need to do a revamping of our website to make sure what are we trying to convey? What are we trying to use our website for? And then also the programs and the platforms that we're introducing, they have to be student driven. They have to be rolled out and implemented and developed in a way that makes those opportunities easier for students to reach.
Absolutely. Oh, you're doing so much. You all have me busy over here taking notes. I wanted to take pause for a moment to talk about the website and the resources that are available, because in many cases, especially with financial aid, the information is there. If you look at the school's financial aid webpage, you will see everything under the sun about financial aid. But I think that we can't confuse availability with accessibility, because just because the information is there doesn't mean that the student knows where to go to find the information that's relevant to them or how to translate it. So if it's there and it's not reaching them in the right way, then we have some work to do. So getting back to that stat from the report, the Real College Basic Needs Study, 34% of students applied for emergency aid, but we had 52% that did not apply because they did not know how. So Dr. Vinson, I would like to ask you about the emergency aid process at Bowie State University and tell us about how that process has evolved due to the onset of the pandemic. And I'd also like to say that Dr. Vinson joined Bowie State University during the pandemic as well. So lots of changes going on there.
Fun times. So yes, at Bowie State, we have several things that, again, support our core foundation of how we want to assist our students or aid our students. And one thing that we definitely wanted to support during the pandemic was aiding when it came to financial ability to attend institutions, removing that challenge or that hurdle. Additionally, when it came to the utilization of and access to technology, we saw based off recent statistics that students of color had less access when it came to technology, not only when it came to computer and laptops, but also high-speed internet. So we removed that piece of digital divide and provided every student with a laptop, with a tablet, with an iPad, with a hotspot as well. If you needed a camera for your computer and or whatever peripherals are needed to make sure that you were able to attend our institution. And that continues to be the trend to this day. That's another supportive measure that we have to make sure our students are successful. But when it came to the financial challenges, our students were not only educated on the options that they have available to them, but we actually we took the proactive approach to look at our students and the challenges they were facing, because we do know that there is a stigma behind reaching out and asking for financial assistance, not knowing who to speak to, and just having the overall gumption to go into an office and say, hat in hand, say, I need assistance. So we said, you know what, let us take that first step. We evaluated students' needs when it came to last dollar to continue on in their education, because we know that if you have a certain dollar amount threshold, you can't move forward in public institutions within the USM system. So we said, you know what, we're going to remove that for our students. Also, the students were communicated with not only about the idea of how we're going to cover their balance, but this is where we're talking about the partnership with Nneka and what she does on financial literacy to talk about okay, we can address this now, but how can we partner with you to make a plan to where you're able to address these challenges in the future? And then let's say if you do hit a roadblock, you know to always come back to us in our areas within financial aid, within student accounts, to offer ourselves as partners to you. Don't wait till the last minute. We're here to service you. And our students have been taking us up on that with the myriad of appointments and emails and everything that Ms. Rhodes sees that keeps her in the office till 9:30. I don't think she actually leaves, but the idea is students know that we have the resources available to them. We're trying to partner with them to not only have them always come to us, but we want to come to our students. So we include hours within the residence hall. We include hours engaging with our student leadership groups because we know that we can share the message from top of the mountain all we want. But the idea of how it actually penetrates our students is actually utilizing our students. The students' voices carry a lot further than our voices ever will. And we have some really dynamic student leaders that partner with our area that are more than willing to share this message, because they say that, you know what, when I first started, I didn't know either. I want to be able to share this message to more of my peers. And this is how we get these students who want to stay with the aid offices and ultimately become employees and directors, things of that nature. We just actually had our director of financial aid retire at the end of June, who started at BSU as a work study student. So it is that journey that we're able to show the students that we have a culture of care within our institution. And then that goes a lot further than any email or bulletin blast that we constantly show. It's the actions behind it, and actually students seeing the faces that actually benefit from these resources.
And they tell us when we get it wrong too. They tell us when, you know, that let's try it this way. So, and we, like Dr. Vinson said, we try to make sure that that's that extra piece of data that we need as well. Before we do certain things, it's like, hey, let's test it out. Let's send it out to our student leaders and see what the reception is. And they'll let us know what we need to tweak, what we need to do better, and when we have it spot on.
Part of our philosophy, it ties into, again, creating a dynamic action plan. You have to tie the qualitative with the quantitative. And then also understand that whatever goal you set today, that finish line will be pushed further back, depending how it evolves. You have to be willing to grow with your plan. And that's what's very exciting about what we have at BSU, especially within Enrollment Management Student Affairs. We partner together very well. It's about that communication and collaboration. We have the growth of our area when it comes to what we're doing with our one-stop shop with our new director, Ms. Whitman. It's about bringing all these services together. And that's what really, really excites us as we continue to move forward servicing our students.
Okay. So I want to go back to one thing that you said, and you glazed over this, but this is a huge deal. Bowie State University is one of several institutions that decided to pay off student balances. And I know that it's too soon for us to see the long-term effects of that decision, but could you talk to us a bit about that decision, any feedback that you received from students and what you expect to see as a result of making that decision to use emergency funding to pay off student balances?
Well, when we first decided going to go down the path of paying student balances, this was during the pandemic, so we weren't in person able to receive all the hugs that the students were excited. I mean, what? Oh my God, I didn't know how I was going to. We received a lot of those emails, a lot of those phone calls, and the idea behind it was exactly what we initially stated: supporting our students. What does that support look like? We know that they have these challenges. We know we have the resource for the system. Let's not make this more laborious than it has to be. We were very fortunate to be able to see the results with the students, and it pays a benefit with us when it comes to, of course, retention and graduation, and then lowering our cohort default rate. But biggest picture, the biggest resource, the biggest application of what we decided to do was, again, the ability to see those students walk across the stage. the ability to see those students sending all those thank you notifications to us to say that because you don't know what that $500, that $1,200, that $1,700 benefit afforded that student. You get those messages saying that my family had no idea how we were going to pay this. I was going to have to separate myself from the institution at this point in time. We all know it's challenging for students to take a break in their education and ultimately come back. That's when we see those issues with loans going into default. We see the cohort default rate, things of that nature go up. But if we can help, if we can assist, that really meant a lot for us. And we're continuing that assistance to this day. Ms. Rhodes just got back from vacation, so she hasn't gone through her emails yet to see all the requests. But they will be there, and we are continuing that supportive effort moving forward. As we are, another area that we just had added to our division was the Office of Private Grants and Scholarships, and we're looking at more strategic ways to utilize our scholarship dollars moving forward, moving away from students always having to offer this and that. We want to create smart algorithms that will help identify students with need and be able to apply these funds without too many interactions from the student. We want to make this process as easy as possible for our students now and into the future, because it does pay a benefit for not only the BSU community, but the Prince George's County community, Maryland as a whole. This is what we're trying to feed back into our community the same way they are feeding back into our institution.
Well, word must be spreading, because I know applications are up, enrollment is up, and I'm just really excited about so many changes that you all have made in such a short period of time. One thing that makes a lot of these changes possible, of course, is the influx of dollars. So during this pandemic, we've seen, of course, HEERF. We've seen major donations come into Bowie State University. We saw a recent fundraising campaign, as well as the core settlement from Maryland's HBCUs. So can you talk a bit about well, obviously it's a great amount of money, so that helps you deal with a lot of problems, but just talk to us about the strategy involved in, of course, receiving those funds, but making sure that they set the institution up for long-term sustainability.
I don't know if I'm excited about you knowing about what's going in my pockets right now, but honestly, it goes back to what we're saying about how we're trying to take a more strategic approach to how we scholarship our students. So it comes with investing in new technological resources, again, adding it to the algorithm, again, us being strategically engaged with our Office of Institutional Advancement, and the new creation of our new Department of Private Grants and Scholarships. All these things were not in place before the pandemic. So us being able to take a focused look not only at the data, but saying the time to the dollars, understanding how our funds can go not only help students now, but into the future. One big step that we were able to just create this year, we were able to utilize our institutional dollars partnership with the foundation and everything to offer not only one-time awards, but also renewable scholarships that had never been in place prior to this year. So the idea is, again, showing students how we are invested in you from initial inquiry all the way to enrollment to graduation and beyond. And this has, as you stated, aided in our ability to see a huge influx in not only our applications, but our acceptance. So the fact that we were able to turn off our application for this upcoming fall at the end of June. So that includes for our new students, our transfer students, and our graduate students. Our residential housing is completely full. This has never been the trend in BSU prior to this year, but it comes to, again, the strategic use of the dollars that we have seen, as you pointed out, all the various resources, and it doesn't stop there. Institutional Advancement is continuing its partnership not only in the local community, but engaging our donors and alums to continue to build this endowment for our students, to make sure that you are seeing the benefit of your dollars going into these future generation of leaders. And we have had a resounding response from our partners that we want to continue with this engagement, with partnerships with Adobe, partnerships with the Baltimore Ravens and Ozzie Newsome Scholarship. All these additional steps that people are taking notice of and adding intentional efforts behind supporting the student population at BSU. And now it's our challenge to make sure that we're using these dollars strategically. And we love that piece here at BSU.
And just to briefly add to that from a financial aid perspective, it's also about opening up and collaborating, right? Which is not always easy, because it's very easy in financial aid to kind of get in your own silo and talk to the people who speak your own language. And it's difficult sometimes to open up your processes and open up your goals and your vision to say, hey, we're all in this together. So that collaboration has allowed us to have a data person on our team in our division. It's allowed us, like Dr. Vinson said, to partner to bring on a private scholarship team, specifically just for private scholarships. But that came from saying, hey, you know what? This is something that it's not about us working hard, because we know we put in the hours. That's not the issue, right? But as hard as we work, we have to bring some more resources to the table, because there's still pockets that we're not quite reaching the way that we want to. And just being able to have those transparent conversations and the ability from our leadership to have those conversations without, feeling like, there's a problem or there's any type of retaliation. Like, hey, let's talk about it. We know our processes. We know our students better than anyone else. How can we better serve them?
It's really great to hear. Well, first of all, congratulations on the influx of financial resources that have come into Bowie State University recently. But it's really good to hear just the stages that an investment goes through, because some people will hear, oh, Bowie State got 20 million from such and such a donor, and think, well, now all of your problems should be solved. You got the money, there it is. But in truth, it takes a lot of strategy, it takes resources, it takes collaboration. And ultimately, it needs to benefit the student. So to hear that you all have put so many things in place that are designed with the student in mind is really encouraging and just delightful for me to hear. We are almost through with our time. We've got about 3 minutes left. So I wanted to ask each of you, as we're getting ready to enter academic year number 3 with this kind of cloud of COVID-19 pandemic still lingering. Quickly, what is the most valuable lesson you've learned, and what part of that lesson will stick going forward? I know that's a lot for 3 minutes, but if each person could take a minute and sum it up, let's try.
I think the challenges that we've been through over the last couple of years has just reinforced my feelings that everything is an opportunity. So yes, we've been faced with staffing. We've been faced with all of the challenges that we know that everyone on this panel has dealt with, but it's about how you take that as an opportunity to pivot sometimes, to bring about the type of change that you want to see happen within your organization or within your institution.
From my vantage point, what has been key and will continue to be paramount for us in our future growth and success is remembering that through all the things that we partner with, or all the experiences that we have to show grace. And through that, we understand and partner with one another, and we'll come through anything. Is the understanding, though, that grace is needed on all sides to make sure that we can move forward collectively.
Yes, for me, I would say the biggest thing for me has been you can never build a strong building without a great foundation. So I'm always finding myself that reassuring that the foundation of the financial education we're giving out is solid before I ask of the students to do much greater with their financial knowledge. So those are kind of like the things that will still continue with me this next academic year, is to ensure that the foundation, the structure that we have in place to reach all families and students are still solid enough to build greater resources on top of it.
Wow. Well, thank you all so much for everything that you have shared with us today, and being so transparent about the challenges as well as the opportunities, and so detailed in your description of the changes that you have made to help students adapt to this new normal and also to help them to succeed, because that's the bottom line. We want students to succeed. We also want their basic needs met, and we want them to have the opportunity to live well, not just during their time at Bowie State University, but well beyond. So thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate each of you, and I'll be seeing you on campus soon.